It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this time around we'll be talking with Father Marty Goetz of the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Newton and his take on the brand new Pope. It's an American Pope, Cardinal Robert Prevost, who just became Pope Leo XIV. He's a Chicago-born American priest who rose to the rank of Cardinal and is now the Pope, and we're going to get his take on the whole thing in just a few moments. But first, a word from our sponsors, including our newest sponsor, B. Nicole Salon in Grinnell. Want to thank Brandy and the gang there for jumping on board and being a sponsor. They'll be providing a $20 haircut certificate to give away as part of our weekend Out and About with Jamie Grout trivia that we do, and we'll be doing that every Sunday in addition to the prizes that we provide from Advantage Credit Union with a $25 Visa gift card, the certificates from Jersey Freeze in Monroe, and the West Side Java Coffee Bar. It's all a great fun that we do every Sunday. So thanks to B. Nicole Salon for being our new sponsor. Also, I want to thank Lisa Zylstra and the gang at Wesley Life Park Center, another sponsor. Pursue your joy at Park Center by offering living options across the continuum. Park Center provides vital, enriching environments for everyone, a community for healthy living focused on holistic health and well-being. Their programming enhances emotional, intellectual, and spiritual wellness and enables you to live a life that's a healthier lifestyle in every way. Park Center is at home in Newton, with many residents and team members having lived in their lives. To learn more about Park Center's different levels of living and to find out that lifestyle that's just right for you, contact Lisa Zylstra at 641-791-5000. That's 641-791-5000 and talk to Lisa Zylstra. Also, Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue, Newton. They're inviting you to join their team. They're looking for an experienced tire technician. Ryan's Tire and Auto is hiring. They're looking for an experienced tire technician to join their hardworking crew there at Ryan's on First Avenue. They value skill, dedication, and a drive for excellence. They're ready to pay top dollar for top talent. Get a hold of Ryan's if you'd like to find out more about that. Also by Newton Clinic. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month. Protect your skin by practicing sun safety and scheduling regular skin checks. Early detection saves lives. Call or text Newton Clinic at 641-792-2112 to book your skin screening today. It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and I am very excited today to be speaking with Father Marty Goetz, who is with the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Newton and also in Colfax.
Yes.
It's a busy man all the time. And I want to talk to him about the new Pope that we have, the first American Pope. And before we get to that, a lot of people have inquired, and especially at Rotary, I know, and your parish too, about your health. So how are you doing these days, Father Marty?
We're doing good. Just to give you a little recap, back in October, the cancer zigged again, so we had the zag.
Okay.
And so I did 12 weeks of chemo. I had to go to the hospital and all that sort of fun stuff, but only once a week, so I'm blessed that way.
Okay.
And that ended in middle of January. And then in February, I decided that I needed more excitement in my life, so we got influenza A, and I spent 4 days in the hospital.
Oh, brother. Boy.
And then some other little side effects with that. But now that May's here, we're on a new chemo regimen. It's oral.
Okay.
So I like that better than having to travel back and forth.
Okay.
But everything is looking good. The numbers are looking good. So we're zagging, and hopefully it'll be a long time before the cancer zigs again.
Good. Well, I know a lot of people have put you in prayer, and you're a great guy, and we miss you at Rotary, and we miss you being as about town as you have been because of what's been going on in your life. But you have to be thrilled at the announcement of the new Pope.
Yes.
And he's American-born, American-made. I know he lived for 20 years in another land, but I have to get your initial feelings after you found out who they had chosen as the Pope. What were you thinking? How did you feel?
my first thought was I was watching it on the computer here, and when because we knew what was coming, we had the white smoke, and then the Cardinal comes out, and gives us those great words. It was great joy. I announce to you, Habemus Papam, we have a Pope, and then he gives the birth name Robert Francis Prevost. And I had trouble hearing that. I was like, I don't know who this. I got to have something on screen here.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I didn't even know who it was at first. I just heard Robert something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh? And then, he took I did hear 14. And so I knew it had to be, Leo or somebody, so he took the name Leo the 14th. And then when they said who it was, I'm like, wait a minute, he's from Chicago. And so we have our first, American priest born here in the USA. Like you said, he was the bishop of a diocese in Peru before Pope Francis called him to the Vatican to serve there. And my first reaction was shock. Because
did you have to slap yourself?
Yeah, a little bit. I gave myself a dope slap. But it was like because I was telling people, they're like, it could be an American. I'm like, in our lifetime, we're not going to see an American.
Yeah,
Pope.
I mean, that's a lot of people thought that, because there've been Italian, there've been people from other different countries, but never an American.
Right, and so when that happened, it was like, holy cow, and then they hear, it was a little bit of a wait because usually it's right away the new Holy Father will come, onto the balcony, and it was a little bit of a wait. It was about 10 minutes, and then when he comes out, my first thought when I saw him come out was a spirit of humility, of humbleness, because there was about 3 times as he was speaking that you could just tell he wanted to break down. He was taking it all in. And one of the things that I read, this was the day before they went into conclave, and they were all moving into, where they were going to live, for how many days. And somebody wrote, our future Pope could be out having dinner tonight at his favorite restaurant in Rome. That will never happen again. He could stop by his favorite cafe or pub and have a cappuccino. Never happen again. And, your life in 48 hours just gets turned upside down.
Sure.
And so, like I said, my first impression was one of humility. And then, as I tell folks, you can tell a lot about the Holy Father and a little bit of his mission on the first words that he speaks. And his first words to us were, peace be with you. And in a world right now where we live in so much turmoil, with what's going on in the Middle East and Ukraine and India, Pakistan, and everything, it's like we need to be reassured of that message that peace be with you, that the Lord's peace is something that the world cannot give.
I got to tell you, Father Marty, I'm a Methodist, born and raised a Methodist. I know some about the Catholic Church. I have many friends who are Catholic Church. In fact, my sister-in-law is Catholic and brother-in-law Catholic, and my body will be laid to rest in the Catholic cemetery here in town because my significant other's parents are buried in the Catholic cemetery, and so I'm familiar with the Catholic Church. But I was overcome with emotion, partly because of American pride, because we have our first church. And I don't know, I felt a real religious connection. And I think a lot of people did. And I'm even talking to you, I feel that way. I feel like this is a man who will bring us closer to Christianity, will bring us closer to the Lord. And it's like, I know the Holy Father is considered God's vicar on earth. Now, maybe you can explain a little bit of what that means. To me, that feels like we'll do the Lord's bidding. Am I correct in that assumption?
And this is the 267th Pope. And as Catholics, we believe that he is the vicar of Christ. And And what that means is he's Christ's representative here on earth, in the succession starting with Peter and working its way down through John Paul, Benedict, Francis, and now Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And he is to represent Christ here on earth. And I think he has done that already, because, I don't know how accurate the internet is, because, I put something out. I'm a Cardinal fan.
Sure.
And so yesterday in the telecast I was watching, well, he's a Cub fan. And I'm like,
no,
a bunch of Cub fans or a bunch of Cardinals elected a Cub fan. Come on.
No.
But he's a White Sox fan.
He's a White Sox fan. And I heard the correction on that. And I think they interviewed his brother.
Yes.
His mom was a Cubs fan.
Yes.
From what I understand. Not him. He's a White Sox fan. Mm-hmm. But that didn't help the White Sox yesterday, because the Royals beat them 10-0.
Yes. Yes. And the other thing, too, there's a picture out. He was at the 2005 World Series when the White Sox won.
Was he? Okay.
Yes. And I guess his brother was out being interviewed when when his brother, the Pope, called him and said, why'd you take so long for you to answer the phone? He's like, I'm out here being interviewed about you.
And it's like his brother was like, yeah, well, he's just Rob from Chicago.
Yep.
And it just, I'm just overwhelmed by this whole thing. I really am. And I had tears in my eyes. Yeah, well, me too. I was just, like I say, I was overcome. I want to see how he feels about things, and I want to see his interview. They say he's been lying low a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he was chosen? I'm sure there are many reasons. I want to get your take on that,
I
Father
think
Marty.
Ultimately, he was chosen because of the Holy Spirit. That's first of all. And second of all, there's pictures now showing up. And a lot of the stuff that he did when he was bishop in Peru, he would sit on a dirt floor with his people. There's a picture out there today. They're flooding somewhere enough that he had to have waders on. But he was out in the flood. So he's a man of the people. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things. I think the other thing too is that, and as people said, who do you think it's going to be? I said, I have no clue what's in the mind of these Cardinals. But what I think they said was, we want somebody in the mold of Pope Francis, but who might be able to bring us a little bit more to the middle. On some theological issues. Right.
And I think that from what I've seen in interviews, there are going to be people on the left who disagree with him and people on the right who disagree with him. So he'll probably be a moderate.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Jesus was the same way.
Uh-huh.
Not everyone agreed with him. And, one of the things that I tell folks here is that, he's now responsible for 1.4 billion Catholics around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And his first, well, maybe it will be now since we have an American Pope, but, what I would tell people, when the Pope wakes up in the morning, his first thoughts aren't what's happening in the United States today.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have to, and one of the things he said yesterday, if it's okay if I quote this.
No, go ahead.
We are disciples of Christ. Christ goes before us, and the world needs his light. Humanity needs him like a bridge to reach God and his love. Mm-hmm. You help us to build bridges with dialogue and encounter so we can all be one people, always in peace. Thank you, Pope Francis. I think that's going to be his papacy.
Well, he's mentioned Pope Francis. I mean, he was like a mentor to this Pope. Now, why do you think he picked Leo as his papacy name?
If you go back to, so we've had 13 Leos, and the last Leo was back in the late 8th or 19th, early 20th centuries.
Okay.
So he died in 1903. He wrote the papal encyclical on the dignity of human work. And you got to remember this, the time factories are popping up all over the place.
The Industrial Revolution.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so he's writing, hey, workers have dignity. Yes, it's hard work, but we've got to treat them with dignity. And I think that this is what this Pope, why he took the name Leo, because, in a tweet he says, I'm not for, I'm going to bring politics in here a little bit, so I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
As he said, I'm not for open borders, but we have to treat each person with dignity.
Right.
And I think that's why he took Leo.
And he has been critical, and again, we don't want to get too political,
Right.
but he was critical of Vice President Vance.
Yes.
And this is kind of following on the footsteps of the previous pope too, about deporting some of the immigrants. Who have
like
come
I said,
over.
I don't know where he stands on that. Where and what I think we need to do is, yes, we don't want open borders, but we have to treat people with dignity, and I think that's the key. If we see each person as a brother or sister, and then we can,
He seems highly intelligent.
yes,
5 languages. He got his bachelor's degree in mathematics from Villanova University. I was waiting when he came out on the balcony for him to speak some English. I was hoping that he would, but he didn't. Is that a tradition when they first come out? Is that how they have to do things?
They usually speak Italian.
Okay.
Except for the prayers, and they're in Latin. But he did start his homily this morning in front of all the cardinals who elected him in English.
Oh, okay, good.
So he did, but then he quickly went to Italian again.
Okay.
But no, I think he's bilingual, mathematician. He's brilliant.
He sounds like he's very brilliant.
Yes.
Now, he's an Augustinian. Now, can you explain that to me? What does that mean?
There's different religious orders, in the church. So the ones that we know most about are like the Jesuits, the Franciscans, the Dominicans.
Right.
There's some minor religious orders, not as big, but one of them is the Augustinians. And they're based on the spirituality of St. Augustine, one of the great doctors of the church, Doctor of Grace.
Okay.
Many of his homilies are still alive or still present to us. He wrote City of God, which is very relevant today.
Okay.
That, hey, we've got 2 cities. We got the city of God and the city of earth, but we're working towards the city of God. And so it's based on that spirituality and that. So he's from a religious order.
I see. Okay. Now, I understand that he also was in charge of, what was it, vetting the other cardinals, or was it other priests?
Other bishops.
Other bishops.
Yes.
Okay. And that sounds like a hard job.
Oh, yeah. So basically, if I understand the process right, is when, so like in our diocese, just last year, we got a new bishop because Bishop Zinkula was named Archbishop of Dubuque. And so we waited about 10 months or so. And what happens is names are suggested to the papal nuncio, which is basically the Pope's representative here in the country. And he kind of vets those names and then gives them to the commission on bishops over in Rome. And Pope Leo was in charge of that. Okay. So he vetted a lot of the candidates and then would give his suggestions to Pope Francis, who would make the final decision. Okay. So now he goes from vetting and suggesting to appointing.
Okay. I have to ask about this, and maybe this is a hardball question that you don't want to talk about. It's finances. But one of the reasons that I heard on TV yesterday that they might have picked a Pope with American background was because of finances in the Catholic Church. And apparently a big donation came in yesterday or the day before, something like that, from some American Catholics because of him being chosen and whatnot. I remember years ago that the Catholic Church had a plethora of finances. It was no problem at all. But what has happened to the Catholic Church and the finances, Father Marty?
The way that I understand it is that there were some decisions made that were kind of against church
doctrine,
not doctrine so much, but gospel values, and that. And one of the misconceptions is, the Catholic Church has all this money. And yes, we do have some beautiful buildings. I've been to a lot of them in Rome. St. Peter's is, just majestic.
Sure.
Where this, and so they want to have somebody come in and kind of clean up that a little bit. And so I know popes, starting with John Paul II, they're still continuing the work with this. The thing is with the church, it is, it was founded by Jesus, but it's run by humans.
Right.
One of my, I'll just speak for myself. One of my weaknesses is money, finances. Heck, I can read a balance sheet and stuff like that, but they get into the nitty gritty. And so I think what they want him to do is just kind of take a look. Where's the Vatican Bank at? What are we doing? Things like that. One of the things, I was honored to be at Mother Teresa's canonization, and I was able to give communion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And where was that held?
At St. Peter's.
Oh, okay.
On a 90-degree day. That was kind of fun.
Oh, my gosh.
Because I was dressed in a black cassock and a white surplice. But they said you have to bring your own cassock. We'll supply the surplus. And what hit me that day was, first of all, there's like 125,000 people you're giving communion to. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of hosts.
That is a lot of people. How long did that take?
It took about 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Because there's about 400 of us spread out throughout the
crowd.
crowd.
Okay. So you had a lot of people giving communion. Okay.
But it was interesting because, and this is a sidebar, but people just put their hands out, Padre, and they just wanted communion. But then, they told us take the surplus, which was very wet, throw it on the table here and we'll get them laundered.
Okay.
So I look at that, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of expenses that that you don't realize that the Vatican spends money on, getting these things laundered, 400 of these things laundered, vestments, 125,000 hosts.
Wow. Gee whiz.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So, in that way, is the church got a lot of money? I don't know, but I just know that when we're asked to help, we help.
Sure.
And one of the things is we support the Peter's Pence collection, which goes to the Vatican.
Okay.
And there's no goal on it or anything like that. It's just what people give. It'll be interesting to see this June.
Okay.
If the American contribution goes up a little bit.
So look in your crystal ball. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire on this whole thing, but do you see loosening of some of the, let's say, rules or some of the restrictions of the Catholic Church with this Pope? Some have predicted that he'll see more emphasis on women in the Catholic Church. Some have said there'll be more a loosening of LGBTQ and homosexuals in the church. I mean, can you give a prediction on what you'll see with this Pope? Because again, he wants people treated with respect, and he seems very down to earth and very open-minded at this point anyway.
Yeah. One of the things, I'll give you an example. So the first reading today at the Mass was in English, read by an American nun.
Okay.
And somebody on Twitter put out, oh, this is just sacrilege, da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, really?
Well, 20 years ago at Pope Benedict's first Mass with the Cardinals, guess who read the first reading?
Was it a nun?
A woman.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's not like it hasn't happened before.
Right. And so what I think, like Francis named, a woman religious to a commission that's never had a woman before. I think we'll see more like that. Do I think we'll see loosening of women's ordination? No.
A no-fly zone, in other words.
I would say so.
Okay.
With the and pardon me, I mean no disrespect. I don't always get the letters right. The LBGQ.
Yeah. LGBTQ.
Yeah. And I apologize for that. Yeah. Francis said, that we can bless the individuals. I could see that continuing. I don't see us, stepping over the line and saying, hey, we can marry now in the church, because that's a truth that's been handed on to us. And the other thing, too, when you have to remember with church and change, and I got to give credit where credit's due. My former parochial vicar said this. The church is like a very large oil tanker. And you just don't turn that thing on a dime.
Right.
It takes time for it to maneuver and then make a turn. And sometimes in the church, that takes
time.
hundreds of years.
Uh-huh.
The church isn't known for moving too quick.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my
Understand.
prediction. I think, but one of the things that I think that will stay the same is we will proclaim Jesus as risen from the dead. He is our surest peace. He is our way, the life. And you asked me, I think this Pope is very much in love with the Lord. He understands what it means to be a disciple.
Mm-hmm.
And that bridge to God, I think, is going to be a strong part. And that's the thing, is how can we build bridges?
Yeah.
But with it holding the truth.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back to Illinois sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It's been since the late 70s that we had a Pope come to Iowa. Do you think we could ever get him to come to Iowa?
I would love to have him back in Iowa.
Wouldn't that be great?
He's a Midwest guy,
Yeah.
Somebody had a suggestion today that we should have a papal representative from Iowa that every October takes me over some sweet corn.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love
and of
that
course,
idea.
all the memes are coming up now.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new rule in the Vatican now that's only deep dish pizza, not that thin crust.
That's right.
He was holding up an old style,
Well, he's just Rob from Chicago,
That's right.
Oh, that's great.
And that's the thing, I think, too. We look to the Pope for his leadership and, on spiritual matters, but also we have to remember he's also a head of state.
Right.
In the Vatican City.
Yeah, people don't think of that it's its own state,
Right.
and it has been for
smallest country in the world.
Yeah, years and years and years. And so he's head of all that. And it's as you say, it's a big job.
Oh, yeah. And, and one of the things, and I would love to read or see pictures someday, because after he accepts being the Pope, and this was on Twitter today, and Twitter hasn't lied, or X, sorry, it hasn't lied to me yet.
Sure. Well, you never know.
But they say as they were reading off his name over and over yesterday, that his face just collapsed into his hands because he realized this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, once he accepts and everything, he becomes the Pope.
Uh-huh.
And then they take him into what's called the Room of Tears. And that's where he gets dressed, into the papal garb and everything.
Sure.
But they also give him a little bit of time in there that, hey, the weight now is here.
He needs to collect his thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure it's overwhelming. And I hope he has good people around him.
He does.
Who can help him and advise him. And I hope, I'm going to get emotional here, but I hope he's just filled with the Holy Spirit and it guides him.
And I think it is. And I think that, like one of the things, in his homily for today, and I got it out of order.
That's okay. We'll give you time to find it,
let me
Father
see if I
Marty.
can find it
It's
here.
in there somewhere.
Yeah.
If you just tune in, we're talking with Father Marty Goetz of the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Newton, Iowa. And we're talking about the new Pope Leo, who was born in Chicago. We're so proud that he's the first American-born Pope.
I just want to read this paragraph from his homily today. In a particular way, God has called me by your election to succeed the Prince of the Apostles, and has entrusted this treasure to me so that with his help I may be its faithful administrator for the sake of the entire mystical body of the Church. That's us.
Yeah.
He has done so in order that she may be ever more fully a city set on a hill, an ark of salvation sailing through the waters of history, and a beacon that illumines the dark nights of this world. And this, not so much through the magnificence of her structures or the grandeur of her buildings, like the monuments among which we find ourselves, but rather through the holiness of her members. For we are a people whom God has chosen as his own, so that we may declare the wonderful deeds of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. And, I think that says a lot right there.
Wow. He sounds like an amazing man.
Yes.
And,
And one of the blessings I got back in 2018 was to meet Pope Francis.
you did.
Yes, I'm a missionary of mercy, appointed by Pope Francis.
Oh, that's great.
So now I'm on this WhatsApp thing, and now the guys are concerned, will the Pope give us, this new Pope give us the same responsibilities and everything? And I'm like, I think he's got other things on his mind. We can let that go for a couple weeks. But
Yeah. Well, I hope you can meet Pope Leo
yes.
too.
And it'd be great just to be able to shake his hand. And
Oh, yeah.
tell him I'm a Cardinal fan, but you know.
Sure.
And that's the other thing I want to talk about too. Like Pope Francis on Easter, making the surprise visits.
Oh, yeah.
The blessing,
Yeah.
the ride in the Pope mobile.
Yeah.
And looking back, the next day, you could just see how bad he looked. But he wanted to be with his people one last time.
Wow.
And I think he knew.
He was an amazing man.
Yeah.
And our new Pope is an amazing man.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
And I think we'll remember Francis, but now it's time. We had our mourning. We had our black bunting up.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got the gold and the white for the new Pope. And it's time now to look ahead, not saying Pope Francis isn't important or anything, but now it's time that we work with Pope Leo. Mm-hmm. And like he said, I think we all can agree on this, to be a light in that darkness.
Thanks for talking to us today. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you.
The thoughts and views of the new Pope, the Pope Leo the 14th, correct?
Yes, Pope Leo the 14th.
Yes, Father Marty Goetz of the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Newton, Iowa, our interview guest on Out and About with Jamie Grout. This podcast also sponsored by Jersey Freeze Ice Cream in Monroe, Lynette Baker, Halo Branded Solutions, Westside Java Coffee Bar, and Advantage Credit Union.
Is your bank slamming its way through your finances by charging monthly fees? Blow the whistle on those foul-saving rates and bounce into Advantage Credit Union. At ACU, we'll treat you like you own the place, because you do. We offer great rates, fewer fees, and you'll actually earn interest instead of paying a fee. If you live or work in Jasper County or 18 other counties in central Iowa, you're eligible to join. Open your account today in Newton or online at acuiowa.org.
Local money, local decisions, local service, and locally owned by you. Insured by the NCUA.
Until next time, out is out. See ya.